Awesome. Well, I am Rebecca Soni, excited to chat today along with my Rise Athletes co-founder, Caroline Burckle. As a quick little introduction, I am a two-time Olympic swimmer, six-time medalist, 3 gold, 3 silver. I'm trying to remember that as I speak. Especially with the Olympics going on, it's kind of funny that I don't even remember my own medals, but 2008 and 2012 were the Olympic Games that I attended. And, in the process of going through sports and swimming and elite swimming and then retiring from it is where Rise Athletes was created. So we're really excited to chat about that a little bit more, but I'll pause there for the intro and throw it to Caroline.
Yes, Caroline Burckle, Florida Gators, since I know that we have something in common here. Again, co-founder with Rebecca of Rise. And I swam at the University of Florida and then went to the Olympics directly after in 2008. So I swam in the 2008 Beijing Olympics and won bronze medal in the 4x2 relay. Yeah, that's my nutshell of a version of my career.
Perfect. So what made you guys come together and start Rise Athletes?
It was really a series of conversations, but really the overall experiences that we had as athletes and that we were seeing both in our peers and in the youth athletes that we were connecting with, be it in swim lessons or clinics that I was doing, and just seeing a real trend that there was so much space for this discussion around both mental wellness and mindset development. But that's kind of a really fast forwarded mindset. Really in the moment, we were just having these conversations between ourselves about things that were helping us. So both of us were retired at the time. We were both grappling with that, kind of going through the ups and downs of, understanding life beyond sports. And through the exploration that was really just self-exploration for each of us, we started to see a lot of common themes, a lot of, these concepts and ideas that felt like, oh, I wish I'd had this when I was training. I wish I'd known this when I was training. Personally, a lot of where it began was noticing that these things I was trying to pull from sports to help with my career outside of sports, to help with my confidence, to help with how I approach things and set goals, were all being taken from sports. Yet I needed to kind of translate them out of sport and into my personal life, out of a swimsuit, out of the pool, right? Like totally different, but same foundations. And in doing so, really saw the need for these sort of skills within youth athletics. We talk a lot about and see how we stand on the shoulders of each other. As we, as young kids, we looked up to our idols and eventually, found our way to the top. Yet now here we are on the other side and wanting these kids to not have to figure it out for themselves, instead giving them the tools and resources that they can take from what we've learned. And so much of that comes from the personal relationship and connection that we have one-on-one, which is a big part of what Rise does, is connecting youth athletes with elite athletes for this personal work, the mindset development, and mental wellness.
Yeah, and I think there's always a bigger picture to sport. And I know that when Rebecca and I were talking and trying to figure out what our next steps were as athletes and trying to figure out, okay, what is it that we can do besides just being a coach? There has to be some other way to give back and create this experience for athletes to where they really feel supported and held and guided in their journeys. And we were both very into psychology and studying it. And when we finished our degrees in that, and we came together and we were like, look, this can be something. And Rebecca said, I have this idea and I really want to create this program for these athletes to feel supported in their journey through mentorship. And I was like, this is amazing. I'm absolutely on the same page. Let's do this. And so I think that really sparked something. We started with no huge vision in mind other than we just wanted to help athletes and also create more awareness around the power of that mentorship and the mental wellness and mental health piece in sport. And keep in mind, we thought of all this and created all this in a time when it wasn't popular. Like, it wasn't a thing that people were talking about. It wasn't something that was front headlines of the media. And so it felt very daunting. People are like, what do you mean mental health or mental wellness or sports psychology or mindset development, or, how do you develop an athlete's mind? I don't understand. And so it has come a long way. And I think that we've come a long way also in our journeys together and in healing our own things that we wish we would have had when we were in sport.
I'll add to that one more thing, in that in starting this business together, a big thing that drew us to each other was that we had very different and balanced strengths. So areas of mine that are weaknesses are really big strengths of Caroline's, and vice versa. So we ended up being kind of a really concise team, great partnership in that capacity. So I wanted to throw that in there as well, that we recognized that early on and really wanted to work in a space that allowed us to focus on our strengths and of course build our weaknesses in some capacity, but have each other to step in that way.
That's wonderful. And I love the fact that you guys recognize the strengths and the weaknesses, not only in yourselves, but also your co-founder. I think that that's super important, and being able to balance each other out. So tell me, what exactly is Rise Athletes? Is it an app? Is it a platform? Walk me through a little bit about, if I am the customer, what exactly am I getting?
Yeah, Rise Athletes is a mindset development program for youth athletes. So when you are signing up, you are connecting with your individual mentor for one-on-one personalized weekly connection, usually on video on our platform. And you're able to really create the changes that we're talking about. It's not just a pump-up speech. It's not just a motivational boost, but it's real sustained change. It's accountability. It's having somebody there for you, as close as we can be on the Zoom. We were able to have that elite athlete, that idol of ours, directly in your pocket, like literally in your phone, on your app. So you're able to connect with your idol and learn from them, and really utilizing a lot of sports psychology and research and data that we've put into making sure that we're teaching the right things and guiding in the right direction. You're also, of course, getting that personal connection, that kind of big brother, big sister feeling, which is so missing within our world these days. And of course, there's so much more that Rise does as a community, as far as developing this conversation around mental wellness within athletics. But ultimately, that's our core and most elite, if you will, offering.
Yeah, we really want to focus on the connection piece. And I think the power of that individual connection and having that support is so important. And I think we're seeing it across the board now. So when we created Rise, part of what we created with the mindset development program was this niche of how important it is, this focal point of how important it is to have that connection with somebody, to talk about things going on, pressures, anxiety, performance anxiety, obstacles, plateaus, you name it, in sport. So all of that is the reason and the why behind what Rise is.
Very cool. So as far as do you guys offer this to any youth athletes? What is the demographic? Do I have to be a swimmer, excuse me, or is it all sports? And then who is my mentor? Is my mentor maybe a former Olympian? And how do you guys recruit mentors to come on board?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, Rise is within all sports. We do have a plethora of mentors, over 40 at this point representing different sports. And we've also found that you don't need to work with a mentor directly in your sport. We've worked with a diverse group of kids personally, in golf, in dance, in gymnastics, and we're swimmers. We do, of course, understand there's certain differences in team sports versus individual sports, and these are all things that can be taken into account, but we can learn so much when we connect with any athlete, and almost cooler when they are a different sport, and yet you're recognizing the same things happening on the court, in the pool, across these different arenas.
Yes, that's the beauty of it. We started out with a heavy swimming load, and then we expanded to other sports. And as Reb said, it's not just sport to sport. Like, we have mentors that work with all different sports, which is actually a really rewarding experience. And the recruiting process, to speak to that a little bit, that is a fun one that we've really dialed in over the past couple of years. And it's grown from apply, and we'll have a conversation that is more in depth and trying to figure it all out, to this beautiful application process where they can come in, they submit a video, they go through mock mentoring prompts, and so that we best understand how they work with athletes and what they portray in that way. And then we bring them on and have more in-depth conversations about their why and why they want to be a mentor. So a big part of what we've created at Rise is that community, and creating a culture of greatness for people to come in and really give back and impact. So we are seeking that when we do look for mentors that apply in our program. Each round we have like 40-ish mentors that apply, and we take about 8 to 10 tops. So it's a higher level prestigious feeling to have, which is pretty cool. And because it's important to know your mission when you're coming in to be a mentor.
Yeah, and as far as who these mentors are, they are the top of the top in the sport. Yet that is not the only thing we are judging them for, of course. They're Olympians, they are NBA, they are, really just representing the highest level of whatever their sport may be. Not every sport has an Olympics. And over time, we also have found these individuals who are just so passionate about this work. They may not have that Olympic title. They may not have necessarily hit the top of the top, but they're either fantastic coaches or so passionate about this work that they balance each other out. So it's a whole range of really top-notch individuals who would be your mentor.
Wow, that sounds wonderful. And the fact that you guys have grown and are very inclusive of all sports and not just swimming is really remarkable. So how has it been being an entrepreneur, and how has your athletic journeys, both of your athletic journeys, prepared you for this career in entrepreneurship?
This is a great question. It is definitely full of ups and downs. And I think every entrepreneur could say the same thing. It's never a perfect, consistent path. It's always pivoting and changing. And so I think the biggest thing that I took from sport that I've been able to apply to this is being able to pivot and being able to learn how to pick up when something doesn't go one direction and be able to pivot it into something else. That and time management. I notice, as a swimmer, especially, we're very regimented with our schedules and morning practice and weights and eating and school and afternoon practice and dry land. And it's a very regimented sport, which is amazing, but it's also an individual sport. So you have to hold yourself accountable and have that time management in the back of your mind at all times, just to make sure that you make time for life and balance, and not just, work and creating that well-roundedness. So yeah, but it's definitely a fun ride. And Rebecca and I always talk about, we're really glad, like we said earlier, that we have a lot of opposites so that we can balance each other out and work well together, which is such a gift, because half of things she does, I would be lost trying to figure out for one. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many ways that we teach our athletes as well, that sports are this beautiful metaphor that we get to tap into throughout our lives. And we're constantly reflecting on that and pulling learnings and skills from our swimming days and applying that. I know personally it certainly feels different to sit at a computer and get work done and accomplish certain things. It feels very different than physical accomplishment, but we have so many ways to reflect back and really all those things that Caroline mentioned, and just like resilience and picking ourselves back up and like understanding when we're not setting proper goals or whatever it may be. When we can reflect back and be like, oh, this is kind of like, when you have a tough practice and picking yourself up after that, having that frame of reference, for us, for something that we knew so deeply through and through, which was swimming, it really helps to put everything happening in our business into perspective for me. So yes, it is certainly a challenge. I know we've been working at home since pre-pandemic. We've been Zoom life for a long time, and that certainly presents its own challenges and its own benefits as well. So there's a lot that that we experience that can be challenging, and I just really want to shout our team out for great communication and business relationships, and in our case it's a friendship as well, can be very challenging when we're really working so closely together, and there's a lot that comes up and we get to work through and talk through, and it's not always easy, but it's always rewarding, and it always leads to a better work environment and outcome for our business. So we feel really lucky for that.
Yes, amen to that. It's one of the best, I think Reb said it at one point, one of the most fruitful relationships you can have is growing that friendship and also a business at the same time. And it's like she said, it presents its challenges, but it is a really beautiful thing to see unfold, because you can learn and grow and push yourself and understand your own things even more, that you can make yourself better as a leader. So yeah, and learning from the rest of our team as well. So it's a cool experience, and it's definitely a challenge. Like for sure, building a business is very, very hard. And especially now, there's so many different ways to do everything, right? Like we're throwing a lot of different ways to do everything all the time. And so it's just using discernment and figuring out the best paths and being able to pivot when you can.
Absolutely. I love that you guys, we're teammates, we're our friends, our business partners now. You guys have the whole gamut of different relationships going on. But Rebecca, something that you mentioned, I wanted to touch on a little bit, and that's the pandemic. And we know that the pandemic altered the way everybody lives. And for a model like you guys, where you are virtual already, how did the pandemic impact your business, both positively and negatively, if there were both?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, certainly had an impact, though I must say that what I was really impressed by is how much our community saw the value of mentorship and mindset work beyond their sport. So across the board, these kids were not able to go to the pool, to the field, to be in practice. And while there were some that said, hey, we need to take a step back and we need to, whether it's financially or we're not doing the sport right now, but the majority of them stayed in. And I think we were able to really connect with these kids at a time that's maybe more valuable than ever. We're all going through something way bigger than I can't find a pool to swim in. There's so much else happening, and to have that support at that time, it felt really rewarding. From a business perspective, not too much change. We were already working from home. We were already on Zoom. We did notice, the Zoom fatigue certainly sets in, both for ourselves and for, our audiences. And there were times when we were really able to tap into that with webinars and talk it to people, and other times when we noticed like people are just tired of this, and we're all longing for that personal connection and like in-person connection. But I feel all in all, we were able to really explore a little bit more into what it means to work and connect with individuals through this whole process.
Yeah, the power of connection was for sure seen during that time. I think anyone would agree that it's nice to settle into a certain routine, but at the end of the day, you realize, wow, connection's powerful, and being able to have this call with my mentor, these calls together, like, you don't take it for granted anymore. You really realize how crucial that connection piece is.
You guys were already Zoom experts before the rest of us were, and got there already, pros at working from home. So what advice would you give any woman who is thinking about starting their own business, whether they're Olympian or just the everyday everyday woman? What advice would you give them about starting their own business?
The first thing that comes to mind, and I think this is probably preached across the board for a lot of women, is to just start somewhere. And I think the feeling that can be daunting is not knowing where that is, but sometimes that can just be on a notebook, like writing down your thoughts and having a conversation with somebody. I know that it can be very scary to put things out in the world, but I think Rick Rubin, I saw something he posted the other day that said, like, once you put your gift out into the world, like, that's success, even if that's just telling one person. And so just taking that leap to really claim and own, like, I want to do this, and this is awesome, because even if, it changes and pivots a million times, or it doesn't even end up happening, the simple act of coming up with that idea and sharing it with somebody and trying to figure out what those steps can be is just as powerful as anything. Like, that initial moment where you just feel naked. You're just like, I just said this, like, this is real. This is out in the world, and that's scary, but that's the evolution that you can take to really gain confidence that you do have the ability to make something amazing in your life. It's just that decision. And so that's that first inclination that I had about what I would initially tell someone, because it's going to be scary. You just got to try somehow, some way, that first step to allowing yourself to feel like it's real.
I'll add that the first thing that came to mind for me is find your support system. And ultimately, that's how Caroline and I connected, is just in talking about our ideas. And you don't have to be a co-founder like we decided to do, but it's all about the support. And that's just more and more important to me as I go. It's the support of our community. It's the support of my co-founder, but sometimes it's just the support of other women in the coffee shop that are doing the same thing, and they may not have anything in common with my business, but I just feel like I have that support. I think women are very communal, and that's something that I can often, I tend to be very individual, and I have to remind myself that community is so important, and it can come in so many shapes and sizes. You never know who that person will be for you. So seeking that and just having those conversations and sharing about what you're passionate about.
Great. And I'm going to throw you guys a surprise question, because I would be remiss if I didn't. This past Olympic Games in Tokyo, we've heard a lot around mental wellness and mental health with Simone Biles. I would love to get your guys' thoughts about that, and the fact that a lot more athletes are open and bringing those issues to the forefront. I know that you guys spoke about it a little bit earlier, that years ago that wasn't traditionally what had happened. So would love to get your guys' thoughts on these past games and what you hope to see moving forward.
I'm very glad that it is brought to this light. I think that I could speak for so many athletes and Olympic athletes, professional athletes, any athlete, high school, elite level, whatever it is, that have struggled with mental health. This is very necessary for people to understand the power of how that is so interconnected into the performance of your sport and also just the wellness of your life and being a healthy individual outside of sport at all. So I am incredibly glad that it happened. There's always a part of me that's like, I wish this would have happened when I was competing. I think that a lot of us have felt that as well. Like it's so powerful, and seeing everyone come together to support that you are more than an athlete. You are an athlete is what you do. You do your sport. You are not your entire sport, is such a powerful feeling for self-confidence, self-efficacy, and all of those things, especially as a woman. I'm speaking as a woman. So I think it was just absolutely brave of her and Naomi Osaka as well, and the other athletes that have spoken up about it in the past. There's several documentaries out on it and everything. So I think it just takes repetition for people to really see the power of this. I think it's a big shift in our society. Hopefully it will keep going.
Absolutely. I think it's defining a next tier of athletics. Athletics have been just so like grinded out, and so much force, and so much, like, if we talk masculine, feminine energy, so much masculine is just push, like having a bad day, push through it, having like emotions, push through them. And that's not really what builds a whole person. And it's really something that Caroline and I have, talked extensively on after our swimming careers have ended, how skewed our life perspective is because of this always forcing forward mentality. And I think that really only gets us so far. I'm really equally excited to see where this conversation goes, but also where, what does an age of athletics and human beings look like, where we're not only pushing, but also checking in and listening and observing and tuning into our bodies and listening to what our instincts say, and tapping into that in a way that makes us so much stronger. I can hardly imagine. I often think about, like, if I'd known some of these things that we're teaching now, if I'd known these things as an athlete, like, I was lucky, I had a gold medal and walked away with the highest level of athletic success, but I did so at a big expense. And so I'm just so curious of the kind of athletic career I could have had if I had this more holistic approach. And I really think this conversation is pulling us in that direction. We talk to kids all the time. We talk to youth athletes, and I already see it in these conversations that I'm having. I see them talking about, like, I like felt this in my body, and I know I was just having like a stress response, so I just took a breather, and then I was able to get back in and do a lot better. And I'm like, whoa, like, I didn't know that as a kid. I didn't know how to do these things in high school. And so we're already seeing this shift, and this conversation is just bringing it to the forefront even greater and propelling us forward. So it's very exciting. And also, it's courageous. There's so much courage being put out through all those that, share vulnerably, be it on the biggest stage or even just on their social medias, or even just in personal conversations, and with one person that you talk to share your experience, can certainly be a huge shift for all of us.
Yeah. And if I could just chime in on the power of it, even in the workplace too, because I know that this is so important in any performance situation, that I think it's been viewed as such a weakness. Like Reb said, that masculine energy of just go, 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 go. And if you pause or stop to work on your mental health, that it's seen as like, oh no, like now you're not going to be good at what you do because you're supposed to push through. And I think in general, I have friends that aren't athletes that say this about work, like, I push myself so hard and I can't even see the light of day by the end of the week because I don't even know what happened. And I think that we can really learn, like, that power of the pause and trying to understand what's showing up for us. It's only going to make us better at all the things that we do have our goals and dreams set on. I didn't know if I believed that. Well, that's for sure. Like Reb said, I wouldn't have ever believed that when I was a teenager. Like, somebody told me to slow down, I'd be like, but I'll fail. like, but I won't be better, and so I think the conversation is shifting, and it's a powerful one. Sports and business world and motherhood. I don't know what else we could name, but several different areas for sure.
Well, thank you both so much for joining us at the Enthuse Foundation and telling us a little bit about your entrepreneurial and your athletic journey. We really, really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks.